The National Identity Management Commission has announced plans to clear outstanding payments owed to its enrollment agents known as front-end partners within the first quarter of 2024. The new Director General of the Commission, Abisoye Kokaudu-Shote, gave the assurance of the payment within the first quarter in a statement issued on Wednesday. The agents engaged by the Commission to assist in the enrollment of Nigerians for the National Identification Number have been lamenting the non-payment of their fees over the last 2 years.
Well, that move must be applauded if and when the backlog is paid up. That is one of the issues we want to take up with our next distinguished guest, Senator Ayo Arise, former national lawmaker who represented Ekiti North District in the National Assembly between 2007 and 2011. We'll also speak with him about President Tinubu's performance scorecard thus far in security and the way forward. Good morning and welcome to the show. It's good to have you. Now, before we get into all of that, yes, thank you, Senator Arise. Considering the mixed perceptions of President Bola Tinubu's 7-month administration, I want to know how you personally, assess his scorecard and the challenges that he's faced. Now, particularly in the light of this recent announcement of the cost-cutting exercise that is going to affect the entire apparatus of the federal government, including the office of the president, the vice president, and the first lady, as well as the suspension of the NSIA, National Social Investment Program agencies. I want to know what your thoughts are about that before we delve into the crux of today's issues.
Thank you very much, and Happy New Year to you.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure to be here once again, and I'm happy every time you extend your invitation to me to say one or two things. In terms of the assessment of Mr. President, as long as we are comparing with the known and the norm that we are used to, I think the president has done extremely well, particularly the actions that is taken in the last few weeks. Apart from the fact that he's trying to lead by example, bringing the cost of governance down, which has been part of the cries of the public, that the cost of governance has gone through the roof. And the president listened, and he has decided to cut, even leading by example. We discussed the Copper crowd that went over there, and they came back, said the maximum number of people to follow him every time he's traveling now should be no more than 20. And for the VP, I think he said 5. So when you have a president that is listening and gauging the tempo of the country and is taking actions to address issues that would ordinarily respond to the yearnings and aspirations of Nigerians, he has done extremely well. Now, if you look at the general assessment, of course, there were challenges, and he's been meeting them headlong, providing solutions. He had looked at the tax system. He's looking at reforms in that area. There are challenges that ordinarily, because of extant laws, a president cannot just stand up and say, this is it. There are ways of doing things. And he's following every step of the way on how to make life a lot easier for Nigerians. Some of these challenges that we are faced with, which include this social, well, I won't totally say scandal now, because he has suspended any social investment program in the country until things are put in place to ensure that malfeasance and maybe what to call grand corruption can be reduced to a minimum. And of course, this is not the first president that would experience corruption in Nigeria, but it's the first one that we are saying that is taking a very swift action immediately and saying, okay, you step aside, let's investigate what is going on. If you are found not guilty, you may come back or you may be given another assignment. But if you are guilty, then it's very likely that person will be shown the way out. And and it's not to say that this is the only guilty person when you talk about corruption in Nigeria. But it's responding as it comes. And we've never seen this kind of swift action from any president in recent memory. We've seen several situations that has come to the public fore. But the president has taken a decisive action. And of course, the effect of this is that if corruption was at 95%, this action will reduce it to maybe no more than 50 or 60, because people will now follow due process and ensure that they don't cut the wrath of the president. So part of why I listened, I watched the last the Effiong that spoke. I think when a person does well, please let's give him a little credit. When you now say, when you begin to say on TV that the president does not want to fight corruption, what does he want to do? He has suspended a minister that was caught. It's when you get caught. If you get caught, what is the response? Because there is no saint in this country as we have it today. But don't get caught. If you get caught, you must face the music. And that's, I think, that's why I would have preferred the man to acknowledge the fact that the president has done something that has touched the heart of most Nigerians at this point in time. So I believe there are numerous things, that the president has done to address the concerns of Nigerians, and I believe it's not a solution that can be, or it's not a problem that can be resolved within 7 months of being president. But the foundations are being laid to a more prosperous, more equitable, just, and of course, it can't be totally corruption-free, but we must reduce corruption for us to grow in this country.
Thank you, sir. So I want to ask, what would you say to people who believe that only women in President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration are facing these repercussions of their actions? We had, before the suspension of the Humanitarian Affairs Minister, Betta Adu, we had the suspension of Halima Shehu as the NSIPA CEO. We have had allegations being put at the feet now of another minister, Bumi Tunji-Ojo, and we've seen allegations rise at different stages along the way. But 7 months in, some people are feeling that only women in this administration are suffering the consequences of these allegations. So what would you say to those people?
Well, I would say that it's a very unfair assessment, because this problem was discovered. It was Betta that awarded contracts. She was the one that requested to transfer money to a private account. I would say that should not be used as a yardstick, but a mistake has been made of grave proportions. And when you look at it, who committed the infraction? 2 ladies. One was trying to take money so that maybe the minister would not have access to it, kept it in a private account, and the other one was issuing contracts out, which to the best of everybody's knowledge, I can't remember when the jobs were advertised, and how come somebody in the cabinet got almost 500 million in contract. If the jobs were done, fine, and we have a register that is dependable, that you can count on, we will say, yes, it's okay. He probably made a mistake of allowing maybe a little bit of, what we call carelessness. Because even if we want to believe that he didn't know that his company was being given a contract, did she follow the due process? So the next question, which is being asked about
Sorry, yeah. Can you clarify? Yeah. Did who follow the due process? The minister, Betta Edu, or the minister, Tunji Ojo?
Yes. No, Betta Edu is the minister in charge of humanitarian.
Okay.
And she's the one that awarded contracts. And given a contract to the company that belongs to a colleague, I think with the kind of profile that the Minister of Interior has, Nigerians would have been willing to overlook it because he has done well in his ministry. If he just came around and apologized and said, well, I made a mistake. And I believe even the president would easily overlook it. But when you come into the public and start saying that you didn't know anything about it, a contract of 500 million or close to that, I think it was just a bit of carelessness. And you can look at maybe these are very young people, so the experience in public service might have failed, failed them in the process of carrying out their duties.
Yes, sir.
But
so
now,
I wanted to follow
the president
up on that because you said about overlooking and they're young. Betta Edu is listed as being about 37 years old. So I would say that she's a contemporary in age with Tunji Ojo, who also has experience, being in the National Assembly since 2019. So you believe that the president should overlook what Tunji Ojo's, as you called it, I believe, mistakes are because of his role in the Ministry of Interior?
I have not said that. If he had come to the public to say, I am sorry, I did not follow up, and it's a mistake, I believe people will be willing to overlook the thing. But when you coming to the public to say that you didn't know about it, that's what is making people very angry about the whole situation. So for me, that is a suggestion. To a person who can decide to overlook is Mr. President. We don't have the powers, to say we are forgiving anybody for anything. It's the president that appointed him. He's the boss. He's the one that can say, this is the step I want to take. But ordinarily, if such happens in the future, it's better for you to come clean and let people feel like, okay, this is a genuine person that is sorry about an error, a mistake. And there is nobody that cannot make a mistake. So that is the area that I think he really bungled the whole thing. The PR was a fiasco and a disaster. So for me, I know Tunji very well, extremely polite individual. So, but I'm not the one to say whether he has to stay or whether he has to go. But the issue of women alone being suspended is not a deliberate action from Mr. President. And when you look at this situation, what happened with Betta is what happened. It's in the public domain. Now, the person who is a beneficiary from one of the companies or his company is a different question. Did he bid? Did his company qualify? Were people invited, to do this job? But if people just sit down and they allocate contracts and forget about the due process, then we'll be set back for another 30 or more years. Because before the BPP, that was the practice. But even now, with the BPP, people in Nigeria, they have looked for so many ways of circumventing the process. And so, but at least they still meet the minimum. If they've been able to meet the minimum, then he has gotten a contract. And like the way the last speaker said, the government can make him to return the money because of conflict of interest.
All right.
And that could be a solution. But I think, as far as the president is concerned, he's taken the correct step so far.
All right, Senator Ariche, let's talk about a few other things.
So, Steve, yes.
All right, sir. And good to see you. Happy New Year to you, Senator. Let's talk about a few other...
Thank you, Steve. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
A few other things from me quickly. There will be two questions. First will be the question of security, which is one of the key areas that Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration, being in its 8th month now, people are using to assess him. But not just about what has happened in Plateau or in Kaduna or a few other states, but even about what we are hearing that is happening in Abuja. That's where you reside. There are cases on a daily basis of abductions and kidnappings of individuals. You are in Abuja. What's your assessment of the sort of insecurity that people are now battling with in Abuja? Do you feel safe personally at the FCT? That's one. The second part will be to speak about the NIN, which I'm sure that you are quite vast about, particularly the fact that the backlog of billions, owed agents for the NIN scheme has been paid. How will you assess the scheme so far? And do you think, what will be the specific areas where you think the government of Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu should focus in repositioning the NIN scheme?
Thank you very much. First, on the issue of whether I feel safe in Abuja. Yes, I feel very safe in Abuja. This is the seat of government. And I don't think that insecurity would get an upper hand here. It's very unlikely. It could happen just like it's happening. And the reportage too, because it's the capital, would always be there. And of course, I keep on saying, almost every day when you open up the TV, even in the US, maybe the city of Atlanta, you hear somebody has been shot in the southwest, this has happened. But I live in the north side of town, so I never get to see these things. And besides, in Abuja, I have been a little bit very careful everywhere that I go now, very careful, not only in Abuja, but across the country, because we have not been able to resolve the issue of kidnapping totally. But I will look at it that the president has been one of the advocates of state policing, because I remember those days when I was in the Senate and I was pushing for things like this. I do get feedbacks from those who are very close to Mr. President. So I know in his heart that he understands that state policing is a necessity. Not only state, local government, and cities. And because the president had lived in America, he understands the structure of policing. So I don't know why, maybe when the president gets there, something that they know that we do not know is disturbing making that a priority. It should be a priority at the very minimum, so that people, if in Plateau, they have state police and they have local government police. If a stranger comes into your local government or into your city, you can easily detect, you know within 12 hours that, oh, somebody strange is there, not to talk of people building population of army to go and attack people at their respective homes. So there is need for that decentralization to the city level, the local government, and the state. When we do that as a minimum, then we know that a foundation has been laid for the future of fighting insecurity. And I think in terms of, but when we even say that, the federal capital, where the IG lives or stays and operates from, and most of the DIGs are here, and the AIGs are here. So that shows to tell you that, yes, there will always be problems. There will always be insecurity, one form or the other. It's the responsibility of the government to curb them, reduce them, and bring them to a minimum possible. It's not that there's any government that will be able to say, oh, there will be no crime, no kidnapping. It is almost a utopia idea. There will always be crime, and that is why there will always be police. And there will always be architecture for curbing crime, in every country and in every nation. So it's not a thing that we can come in and or the president can stay 7 months or 1 year and say he has eradicated. He can only claim by the time he finishes, maybe, God willing, 8 years, and say, oh, this is the position I met this country when I came. This is the position I'm living in. Crime has reduced by almost 90 80, 70%. But it's not total eradication. Just like the problem we have with corruption. Nobody is going to tell us that we will eradicate corruption in Nigeria because it's ingrained in the blood system. So everybody wants to get rich quick. And that is why the president is working hard to ensure that people are empowered, in such a way that the attraction to government office is actually reduced. And the issue of employment is no longer solely in the hands of the federal government, but in the hands of private individuals as well. That's my take on that.
So I asked the question on NIN too. Yes, on NIN,
yes.
NIN
Yes.
and the payment of all the backlogs. Yes. Please go on.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. The NIN, with the policy of front-end processors that came in under the last administration through the World Bank ecosystem, the enrollment within 2-3 years, NIMC was able to enroll over 60 million people. Whereas 15 years prior to that, they were able to enroll about 40 million or thereabout. So the enrollment exercise is in process and is going on well. Although the new DG, which correctly, she needed to ascertain who is being owed, how much is being owed, and so she had to do a revalidation exercise to ensure that she gets the correct figures. Because Nigerians, for example, if she just paid money and some of those money just disappear to different accounts, we all come here to be blaming her. So we appreciate what she has been able to put in place. And there were a lot of problems, even with the software, so-called IP, in-processing error. When you register somebody, the thing will not register at the back end. So almost all these problems she came in and was confronted with. But I believe she has meticulously tackled most of the issues. And that is why I think she has come to the public to say she's going to pay all the backlog before the end of the first quarter. But of course, there is still always a problem, that the FEPs are putting forward. When the agreement was made to engage FEPs, it was agreed that they will be paid $1 per enrollment. And that is in the white paper produced, even which the World Bank was using. And $1 at that time, when the project started, was 350 naira. So the agents are asking us, are these people trying to pay us our $1 and equivalent? That is one of the major problems that is actually very unclear, because if you say this is $1, but Nigeria, we cannot pay you in dollars, we'll pay you this exchange rate. Now you have held that money for more than 2 years, unpaid. And so a number of the agents who are already having problems with their banks, who took loans, and some of them actually had passed. So there has been a lot of stories on the NIN, but those ones, these are carried over problems, not problems caused by Abisoye, the DG, the new DG. So I think we are comfortable if she's able to pay by March and she pays the amount that the government is owing, which is $1 equivalent. Whatever the equivalent is, whenever they want to pay, that should be the primary focus of the exercise for now. And of course, I think the World Bank is now taking over. And once they take over fully, they would begin to do enrollment in large numbers as well. For now, I think it's restricted to offices of NIMC. And I think it might be a little bit slow. But right now, once this hurdle is crossed, she's going to revalidate many of the vendors. And she wanted to be sure that it's not the people awarding the licenses that are the ones controlling the business. And so many other things that has informed our decision to be a little bit careful, meticulous, and put things in place that would, pass the test of time. So that is that's the little that I know for now about NIMSI. And I happen to have employed over 1,100 people doing this as agents. So it's been a lot of pressure from many of the agents that, look, we need our money. Some of them believe that we have taken the money and we are the ones not paying them. Somebody even took my name to Berekete. That is Fire Solution. So when you look at some of the things, I feel compelled that, okay, if I can shed some light on this, that I will do that today.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Senator Ayorishe. Very quickly, before I let you go, if you could access over 100, how has President Bola Ahmed Tinubu done? What scorecard would you give him? Just the number before we go on a break.
Well, I'm one of those who have always believed that President Tinubu will perform. So whatever percentage I'm giving, you have to allow me my own. You have to allow me my own bias. I think he has done well over 70%.
All right, then. Well over 70%. Thank you so much, Senator Ayorishe. We appreciate your time and analysis here on The Morning Show.